Hey guys, it's Julian, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make Groovy Defected style tech house. As usual, get the project file and samples and MIDI presets, all that kind of stuff in this video in the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it'll be available there shortly without anything. And yeah, let's get started. So the first sound we have here is the lead, which sounds like this. So what this is, it's a really simple sort of like synth pluck. If I turn off this grain noise and the echo, you can hear a little more. Basically just playing this thing, this dun 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 dun. Kind of just like rhythmically droning on that D sharp. That's the key we're in, is D sharp. So then for the sound on this one, I'm using analog. What we have here is just a simple pluck. I just have one saw wave going into a low pass filter, and yeah, the filter has an envelope on it, giving it the pluck. Then we just have a bit of vibrato and a bit of unison to kind of give it some more character. After that, I have a bit of chorus. Here's without it. And with it, you can hear it just helps to kind of play up to what the vibe and the unison are doing. And kind of give it a bit more dimension. And yeah, after that, we have a bit of grain delay. Here's without it. And with it, so you can hear this is really helping to kind of obscure the sound and make it a little bit more interesting and unique sounding. So this kind of stuff is definitely good to do because, like, you know, that works and all, but this definitely sounds a lot cooler. So yeah, so what we've got going on here is I just have the dry wet about there, pretty fast time, and then the key here is the spray and the frequency. I like to turn the frequency down a lot. That's how you can really hear the space between the delays versus if we turn it up. It just becomes like noise. And then the spray is what's making it kind of grainy like that. So yeah, just kind of a nice technique, again, to obscure it and make it sound a little bit more interesting. After that, we have this echo, which is just doing eighth notes. Here's without it. And then with it, you can it's just giving it a little bit more space and kind of some more rhythm. After that, we have a bit of drum buzz. Here's without that. And then with it, you can hear it's just kind of fattening the sound up a little bit. And then the last thing we have on here is just an EQ8 cutting out the low end and doing a little high end boost as well. Here's without it. And with it, so you can hear the sound just had a lot of like low mid-range in it, which was kind of messy and obnoxious sounding. So this is just cleaning that out and then doing a little high boost for some clarity. That is it for the first lead. The next sound we have here is the second lead, which sounds like this. So what we've got going on here is this is just playing D sharp, and then here is just playing D sharp, and then A sharp, which is just the fifth of D sharp. So yeah, pretty simple stuff there. What we got going on here is we just have two saw waves. I've got one an octave up. Those are going into a low pass filter with an envelope, kind of like opening it, and then we've got the amp envelope set like that as well. And then the last thing we have on here is just a bit of vibrato, just to kind of give it some more kind of character. You can hear without it. It's really straight. But with it, it kind of adds some character to it. After that, we have this echo. What's going on with this? First of all, here's without it. And then with it. So you can hear this is giving the sound some space. What I have the two ears at two different times. So this kind of gives it a wider stereo field, I guess. I was trying to do things that I don't really do that often in this video. Like, I don't really do this a lot with the echo. But yeah, and by having these at two different times, like I said, you're getting kind of like a wider stereo field. But also these are unsynced, so it's not doing just like 8 notes or 16 notes or anything. We can hear it's just kind of ringing out like kind of on its own time. So it's a kind of a cool way to create your own echoes and get kind of a more interesting sound than you would usually get just sticking to like 8 notes or 16 notes or anything like that. After that, I have the CQ8 just cutting out some low end. This without it. And with it, so you can hear this is definitely a pretty important part of the sound. And then the last thing we have on here is just a compressor side chaining it to the kick. And that is it for the lead. The next thing we have here is the bass, which sounds like this. So if I play this with the kick, you can hear it a little bit more, kind of what's going on. So basically, this is focused around this D sharp here. You know, it's a very groovy, kind of swung bass line, so it's going to stick around the root. But yeah, it's just playing around that D sharp. It goes up to the A sharp a little bit there. Again, that's the fifth of D sharp. It's just 7 semitones up. But you can see also I have everything swung here. So this is with everything in here, like the drums, like if I show you the shaker, if I show you like even that first lead, everything in here is swung a little bit. But this bass line really like exemplifies it. You can hear if I quantize these notes, it's kind of boring. So this is really adding a lot of groove. So for the sound on this one, I made it using operator. It's a pretty simple FM sound. You can see we just have 2 sine waves here. Really nothing too crazy. It's just kind of like taking a sine wave, which you can hear on its own is very deep and has like that nice kind of low feeling we want for a tech house bass. But it's kind of like just, you know, it's just a sine wave. But when we add this oscillator in, you can hear it. There you go. It becomes more of like a bass sound and less of just a sine wave. So after that, I have a bit of dynamic tube. Here's without it. And with it, so you can hear, this is really important for the sound. This is really bringing out the bass like on its own. It's not quite fat enough, but with this, it's really jumping out of the line and giving it a lot of groove. And yeah, that is the bass. The next thing that we have here is the kick, which sounds like this. So you can hear this is just like a pretty standard sort of house kick. And then I've just got it shaped a little bit. I had to tune it down a little bit to get it to D sharp. It's hitting D sharp. The tuner's being weird. But yeah, I had to tune it down a little, so I just shortened it so it's not like super long. And then I just have a bit of saturation on there. Just kind of fattening it up. So yeah, pretty simple stuff here, you know, with this style. Just kind of like these punchy, more powerful sort of tech house kicks are what you want. After that, the next thing we have here is the shaker and hi-hat, which sound like this. So basically what we have here is, yeah, we have a shaker, just doing the constant tick, 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 16 notes. And then we have an open hi-hat playing on the upbeats. And so this is kind of like a thing, you know, sort of like making your own percussion loops. Like when you hear a percussion loop in a sample pack or something, sometimes it can be kind of hard to figure out like how you would go about just making something like that on your own from scratch. And this is how you do that. You know, you get like the shaker and just put it really quiet in the mix. And then put the open hi-hat on top of it. You can hear if I start turning the shaker up, it throws the whole thing off. So you just have to know how to mix them. And yeah, after that we have the clap. Sounds like this. Pretty simple stuff, just sort of like a punchy, sort of hard-hitting house clap. And then the next thing that we have here is the percussion, which sounds like this. So basically what we got going on here is I just have these 3 percussion samples. And then they're in a drum rack, and I've just got them playing this little pattern here. So you can hear, this is adding a lot to the groove. Like, it's really adding a lot of interesting stuff, and when you take it out, it feels a little bit like it's missing something, as you can hear. So yeah, really simple stuff, just kind of putting all the percussion in a group, or in a drum rack, allows you to kind of work with them as a group, and make more interesting grooves that are kind of based on everything all together, as opposed to just like hearing each individual sound on its own and then putting them together. So, the only effect I have on there is just an EQ8, just to cut out the low. Because some of these percussion samples can have a bit of nasty low sometimes. And that is it for the percussion. So then I have all of the actual like individual percussion sounds, like not just that drum rack with percussion, but the clap, the hi-hats, or the hi-hat and the shaker, and then the drum rack as well in a group. And so this is something I do quite a bit on here. I'm trying to stay away from doing it in this video, but I couldn't help myself with this. But basically, I have it all in a group. And the reason for this is because when you put all these kind of similar sounds in a group like this, like this percussion, and you bust it together, as it's called, it makes everything sound a lot more cohesive, and it makes your overall track sound better. Here's with none of the group processing. You can hear even when I turn it up, it doesn't sound that good, versus with it, it really fits into the mix. So the first thing we have here is actually a little bit of reverb. I'll show you kind of, here's without it. And then with it, so it's very subtle, but if I turn up the dry wet, you can hear it. So you can hear it's just adding a little bit of space to the sounds. It's kind of helping to put them all in the same room. And this can be an issue sometimes, like when you have samples that you're just putting together from different sources. Sometimes you can have issues making them sound kind of like cohesive and making them all sound like they're in the same place. This is a really good way to do that. Because it's like we're literally giving everything that same little bit of space on top of it. So yeah, you can see with that, I just have the dry wet down pretty low. Also got a pretty short decay time. You don't want it to be super long, but this definitely helps to bring the drums to life. After that, we have a dynamic tube. Here's without it. And with it, so you can hear, this really helps to kind of saturate everything just a little bit and give it more texture. And you can hear it's also fattening everything up. Like, it's just giving everything that extra little bit of polish to kind of bring it through. After that, we have an EQ8. Here's without that. And with it, so you can hear this one also is kind of just polishing everything up. It's just giving it a little bit of a high-end boost. Just kind of sharpen all this percussion up a little bit. And then the last thing we have on there is just a bit of compression. Here's without it. And with it, so you can see I'm really just compressing the peaks here. But this is helping to make the percussion sound a little bit more even. As you can hear, like, again, it's not squashing it or flattening it, but it's just making everything a little bit more even. And I have the attack up a little bit as well, so it's not getting in the way of any of the transients on the drums. But yeah, so that is pretty much it for this one. That is about all that I have to show you. So, as always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments, guys. It was really great showing this one today. As always, you can get the project file and samples and MIDI and presets and all that kind of stuff for this video in the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there. It'll be available shortly. And yeah, I will see you again tomorrow with another video. Thank you very much, everyone.